everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. We're going to continue the playthrough of Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. As you can see, we've got continents that have guys on every single one of them, so nothing is free at this point. This one used to be, but now the orcs have taken it over and are slowly going around here and taking up all of these tokens as they move. Again, if all the land tokens are taken off, that's an endgame trigger. The one that I'm kind of gunning for strategically, actually, is I looked into it, and one of the ways to win is expanding, and this is something that I've come very close to doing, and that's getting all my warriors and serfs into play. And as you can see right now, I only need 2 more serfs in and a warrior in order to trigger that end. So I have a little bit of flexibility in when I choose to essentially end the game. So if I play strategically, I should be able to try to do a number of things before I pull the trigger on getting all those guys out. One of the major things I want to do in this video is I want to get to tier 3 before anybody else does, because going to tier 3 will give me 10 victory points, which is a huge, nice bump. On top of that, I've already built in the last video the garrison here, and because I built the garrison, I'll be able to recruit this particular commander, giving me 2 more victory points at the end of the game for having recruited this individual. I also could potentially try to build these 2, which is the Shadow Guild and the Air Spire, in order to try to get these guys out, which would be 2 more each. Now again, every time you build a building as well across this row at the end, you're going to get a victory point too, so there's benefits there. There's all of that going on top of the fact that all I have to do is recruit those 3 into play, and I've hit essentially the expand option of the game, which is one of the ways you can win. Exploring, of course, is all the different land tokens disappearing. There's exploiting, and there's, of course, exterminating. So I'm kind of more close, and I was originally kind of going the exterminating road. That's kind of how I was thinking with this group, or this army was going to go after maybe one of the capital cities. But the more I look at it, it might be more strategic to play it out and see how I can potentially expand in order to win by just bolstering my army up, because the attacks haven't really come. And in some of the playthroughs I've done off camera, the attacks have come constantly. So this game's a little different. So what we'll do is we'll jump right into the first round here, and the very first thing I want to mention is I'm going to go do a quick tax rotation. So it was noted in the last video that I missed that a couple times. I'm going to try really hard to do that. Every once in a while I'm forgetting after taking those tax actions to rotate the market. So I'm going to do that right now in order to correct a little bit. Now, of course, nothing I'm doing here can completely correct it, because I think I missed it twice in the last video. But I'm just going to rotate it once, and then we'll go from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the orcs, which are here and here. And of course, the orcs seem to be driving more towards stealing up all of the land tokens. They haven't really come across to me yet or been a threat. I've been able to kind of pick them off from a distance, but they have had their berserker, which is now up here. She actually made her way over here in prior videos and caused me some grief, but I'm more than ready if they happen to come over. So without further ado, let's find out how this plays out. So coming over here to the orcs, as you can see, we're down to the last card, so you can never pull that card over. We're going to have to do a quick shuffle in order to bring back all of the discarded cards into the enemy action deck. Okay, and we'll go ahead now. We'll pull the first card here, and what are the orcs going to do? They're going to research. So we can follow this if we want. I want to let you guys know that I do have quite a bit of serfs waiting in the area there in the courtyard. We got 3 of them, so it's something we could potentially do. Now this is going to be the one where the enemy's going to pay mana in order to cast a spell based on the hero. So it's the chieftain. The chieftain's ability is more so for gaining attack power, so that's not really going to do anything for his turn right now. The chieftain's ability here is called it's only 2 to do it, so it's likely going to happen as their mana is all the way to the top. Costing 2, it's going to give them a victory point. It's called the Farmer's Plague. It says an opposing serf within 2 regions of his hero is killed, and if multiple, you get to choose. So in this particular case, luckily the chieftain's actually so far out of the way that he's not within 2 of anybody. And so because of that, that is not going to occur, so it's going to be considered a failed action. But it says here the only way that it would be the only way that the action would actually fail is if the enemy can't pay the mana, because as we've seen before, even if they fail to go ahead and cast a spell because maybe the actual spell that they're casting can't happen or can't trigger, they'll still spend the resources and do it anyway, because that's one of the ways they gain victory points. So you got to remember that. So even if it sounds like or feels like a failed action, it really isn't. So we're going to be paying 2 mana, going from 10 to 8. It's going to give them a victory point. So we're going to jump them up. The orcs are going to go from 22 way up here to 23. And of course, they paid their 2 mana, so that's all good. And then everything else in terms of that action is now done. So there's no movement or anything like that to speak of. And so we'll move on to the dwarves. Coming over here to the dwarves, what are they going to do? They're going to build. Now, one thing I didn't mention in the last section there was I didn't really want to research there, so I'm not going to be pushing that. I could have followed it, but it's just not something that I want to do right now, so I'm going to skip that. I could have followed it, but I wanted to make mention of the fact that I do not want to do it. But the build action, I definitely want to do. This is perfect. So they're going to be doing a build action which I can follow. It's for their capital city, which is bad because this is going to get them closer to the next level. And of course, they're gaining victory points as they go up this, which is nasty. The enemy has to pay ore to advance its capital city's token. So this is going to happen. The cannoneer is the one doing it. So we're going to come up over here and see how much it costs. It'll be 5 ore. They have way more than enough, so the resources go down to 5 for that. They're going to jump from where they're currently at in the second tier category, which kind of rests between these 2 spots. And they're going to jump to this second one here, and it says towers now cost half the ore to build, rounded down. So if they go ahead and start building towers, which they can currently have 2 in the game, and the dwarves right now have 1 up there. If they built a second one on a different continent, because that's the rules, then they would only have to pay half the ore, which is pretty nice for them. And of course, remembering that how the ore works for towers is based on how many actual regions of land you are away from your capital city. So with all that being said, that has been paid, that has been bolstered. They're going to go from 9 to 13 victory points at the end of the game, so that's nasty. Coming down here, they have fulfilled the build action, and of course, this is now where I would like to follow. So, making our way over to the Elven faction, we're going to take a serf. We're going to go ahead and follow that capital action. It's going to be a build action, and on that build action, we are going to go ahead and we are going to build the next level of our capital city. So this is going to be a very costly upgrade. It's going to be cost us 7 ore, 7 mana, and 7 food to do so, which is quite a lot, but we have those resources. So these 2 here, the food and the ore, are going to drop all the way down to 3. The 9 is going to be reduced down to 2, and we have paid for the top section, or the highest tier of our capital city, which can now sit on top. We've totally completed our magnificent elven building here. That's just awesome. So, of course, with this, it's going to give us the benefit of being able to, in the future, carry more cards. So we can now have 3 cards in hand. We have 2 currently. We also now have a strength in our capital city of 8 to start. And then, of course, we have the 3rd tier. We're going to go up to 10 victory points at the end of the game, which is a massive jump from 5. And it's going to unlock a bunch of these abilities from areas where we have built buildings. So Garrison now says warriors in land regions adjacent to your tower on the same continent are now extra strength in battle, or just strength in general. Mana Tower says each forest region you control at the end of the game is worth an additional victory points to a maximum of 6. So if we go after forest, being that we're elven, we would be able to gain a real big bonus in victory points at the end. So it might be worth our while to do march actions, maybe at times when we're able to, maybe even during this turn, to maybe move guys that are serfs into forest regions, which would be good because we actually didn't really concentrate much on the forest, but we could end up getting 1 here and 1 there. So that's an extra 2 victory points at the end of the game just for moving, which seems pretty good. What else do we get? And the Corsair, which is our boat, is now going to be able to move an extra space more than normal. So 3 typically, but an extra boost will be up to a total of 4. So that's quite some movement on the boat side of things. So, with all that being said, we've now gone ahead and updated or upgraded, I should say, our capital city. And we're going to head right around to our turn now because we just followed the dwarves action. And now it's going to be it's going to come around to our turn to use one of our main actions right now. Okay, so going into this round, I've got a little bit of a strategy here. Now, if you think about it, we have 2 serfs, and as long as I don't use those serfs, I can potentially follow up to 2 actions from the AI opponent, which is awesome, which would allow me to basically take turns while they're going. So I'd like to at some point recruit my other 2 serfs into this pile, but doing it on this turn really makes no strategic sense because the most I could follow would be just these 2 guys right now, unless, of course, I decided I wanted to go ahead and do something like build, but I've already built, so I can't build or go after any other buildings down here. So it makes more sense at this point to potentially go ahead and do something totally different, which might be something like a recruit action, say. We could do something like that. However, remember that serfs are used for capital actions, and recruiting is a capital action. So that me doing a recruitment action as one of my main actions right now would be a little silly, because it's possible that we'll pull those cards, or the recruit card with the other factions. I'll be able to do that for free. So what else can we do? We got marching actions, we got sailing actions, we got flying actions, all kinds of different things there. We've even got casting actions, which are useful. So if we take a look at the casting, you can see that at any point in time when we want to, we can gain a victory point and we can bring a warrior in from our supply. Now, on top of the fact of trying to recruit 2 serfs, that would literally be able to get recruitment of 2 serfs into the game, and then the casting would allow us to get the warrior in, and that would actually trigger the end game, which is why I've been talking about it so much so far, because I really am in control in terms of when I end this right now. I can draw this out, or I can end it real quick. Now, I really want to try to gain as much points as possible. So it makes the most sense for me right now to probably do something like a march, something that I can't technically follow from the orcs or the dwarves. So if I go ahead and do a march action, what I can do is I can potentially move some guys into forest areas, which, as we know now, are going to start gaining me some victory points, which isn't a bad idea. So let's go ahead and do a march action right now. All right, well, I've decided I really want to do a march action. So the march I'm going to be doing is taking one of the serfs from this area here with ore, which is a little bit hard for me to do because I really like the amount of ore that this was generating for me. This was bringing in 3 ore a turn, so it's a little tough. I also think that my army here might be a little overkill. I may not need to have as much strength as I have there, so I might want to leave my serf here now that I'm thinking about it. This is a tough call. The reason why it's kind of going back and forth in my head a little bit is that whatever I end up moving to here, I want to be able to secure it because, of course, you got dwarves right here that could come over. So if I head over here with a march action, I could bring everyone here except for 1 warrior to stay there to get that food. It kind of sucks to have to leave someone behind, but in order to control it, I have to leave something there. So I'm going to probably do a march action. Instead of moving the serf from here, 1, 2 over to here, I'm just going to move this group army. At max, I can move a total of 2 with the sorceress, 3 with the warrior, and so that's actually quite a bit of movement regardless, but I can move them 2 at the most because you have to go with the least unit. But it doesn't matter because it's next door anyway. And then there's a token there, so it could be something good. So let's just go ahead and do that. We're going to take all these guys, and then at least we have 1 guy kind of guarding the main area here. So if he happens to get in a fight, it slows down whatever movement's coming from across, because I'm not too worried about the orcs yet. So we're moving to the dwarven area over here, and as soon as we move into this area now, we're going to go ahead and take this token, reveal it, and see what we get. And hopefully it's something good. Oh, we've had this before, a similar one anyway. This is a mine, and if I remember correctly, I think that gives me resources by choice, I think. Let me just double check here. Where are we? Mines. A small band of rogue kobolds snore by the opening of a vast cavernous mine, leaving its riches unguarded, so immediately gain any 3 of your choice. Well, I know exactly what 3 I want, I think. I think I'd want the ore, because even though I'm generating lots of ore, and you might think I want mana, based on what I want to do at the end of the game to generate points, I want to build buildings. That costs 3 ore. A lot of the stuff down here to bring out some of these guys, even the commander here, to recruit him now that I have the building built, is 2 ore. So ore is important, so I'm going to bump ore up to 6. So now we got 6 ore, 3 food, and 2 mana, and mana's kind of hurting the most, but now at least we moved into this area, and we'll start getting 1 mana here, plus a victory point at the end of the game for doing that. So that was worth it. We got some ore and a victory point for the end of the game, all in one go. So that essentially was my march action. I've marked that off, and we can go right around here to the orcs. So the orcs, what will they do today? They're going to build. Oh my goodness, they keep charging up the cap. This is the thing I didn't want. I didn't want them to be chasing me on the capital city track because it's giving them a lot of points as they move up, so this is hurting me. They do have the ability to go up 5, so they're going to drop from 7 down to 2. And now they've upgraded to this level. It says gain additional victory point for each time the orcs start a battle. So now every time they start a battle, they're getting 2, which is bad. So hopefully we don't have them initiating any battles going forward. We've gone ahead and done this completely, so there's nothing else to do. Do I want to go ahead and follow this? I could do... Actually, sorry, I've already done a build action, so I can't follow with another build action anymore because that action is covered up by a serf on my board. So with that being said, we'll move on to the dwarves. So the dwarves will now reveal their card. This is going to be for the priestess, and it's an attack. Oh, I wonder if this will even happen. So we're going to take a look here. The enemy hero and its army move up to 2 to attack the nearest player army that is less than or equal to its natural strength, and then gain 1 for battling. So we have to go over to the board to find out who and exactly what they can attack from their location. So this is where the priestess is currently way in the back here. It's so cluttered up, it's insane. There's guys all over the place, but basically there's a forest region all the way in the back here. The priestess is on this particular flying thing, but it cannot get anywhere to my guys or any enemies. So it's not within a distance of 2 to be able to make it to do any type of attack. And so because of that, it's considered a failed action. And so when a failed action occurs, we get to move. Now, where is it moving? Well, it's going to move south, and that's going to actually start putting it in the right direction. Now, just remember here, you can see that this thing goes from all the way over here along here. So south could technically mean in the capital city or over here. I'm going to have it go into here because just tactically, I think it makes more sense that it doesn't ever go back into the capital city, I guess is the best way to say it, ever. So it's going to fly back down here to here as it makes its way south, which is bad because this could eventually have it coming much closer to us. And currently, actually, if I'm not mistaken, because it's a move action, we have to look at the... no, it's not just a one movement. We have to look to see how far the griffin actually flies for the dwarves. And the griffin, I believe, is 2. So we'll take a look. Yep, it is 2. So it's actually going to go one more space, landing it in the desert area here. And it went through the swamp and the desert, so it gets no resource gain whatsoever. So that's where it's going to land, and now it's much closer to coming across here. If it can get into this region and get another south movement, it'll be coming across, and that could be quite interesting. Again, you can see here that these regions, when you're flying through with a griffin, it can go from land to sea and then to land. And this is where it gets dangerous because typically if this griffin was to be here and it got a southern move, it would go 1 and it cannot land in here as a second movement because it just can't based on the rules, and it could never get across. So the only way that these flying things can really get across the sea is to hit these kind of angled areas on their continent and get across by moving through this space. Because when they're in a flying ship, they don't get stuck in the middle, as if they're in a boat, they do. So, all that being said, that is where the hero is going to rest, and that's the end of the second round for the orcs and dwarves. Alright, so coming back to my initial plan, which is to try to keep all these banners open as much as possible to try and do follows. I'm still waiting to do those follows that'll actually make sense. Now, I skipped on the research way at the beginning of the round because it wasn't something I wanted to do right away, but if it comes up again, I might. I have only 2 more cards to reveal for the other side, so really I have to make a choice here. Again, I'm not going to go ahead and recruit 2 serfs at this time because I have 2 serfs to cover whatever follows I might need to do still. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do another march action because that's something that I can't do by following. And I'm going to take the serf that's sitting in this region here, which is generating me a total of 4 resources a game, which is 2 for the tower, 1 for controlling the region, and 1 for being a serf on this spot. And I'm going to take this serf off, which loses me 1 resource a game, or 1 resource from this area, so I'll be getting 3 from there now. And I'm going to move it over to this area, which will now give me not only extra resources, so I get a mana, I get 2 mana for that move now, plus I get a victory point for controlling a forest. So that's going to help me out at the end of the game, which is coming up quick. I've now covered over the march action, and really I'm going into this last round for the orcs and dwarves hoping to follow, but it all really comes down to the cards and what I'm able to do. So without further ado, let's find out what that is. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take our first card off the top, and we got a recruit. This is exactly what I was waiting for. So this is one of the capital actions, that we can potentially follow. So first off, this is for the orcs. So air vessel, sea vessel, they're already out. The warrior. So they've actually run out of warriors at this point. They only have serfs, as you can see here. So that's what they're going to be bringing into play. And guess where it's going? It's going with the berserker, and this is going to actually push up the amount of units that they have in that area to the maximum of 5. To recruit a serf, it is going to cost 1 food, very cheap. It's going to land in the same area, but guess what this is going to do? It's going to help them generate more mana resources now in here because 2 serfs can be in here. There is now a serf, 3 warriors, and a berserker. Now, if these guys happen to move, just so you guys know, this alligator is actually, or this boat, I should say, is connected to this swamp area, not this area, even though they look like it is. So at some point, these guys may end up getting into this thing if they can get adjacent to it. That could be dangerous because it could send them anywhere, and that's a really big army. or we may end up getting failed actions in the future that send them off up here stealing for victory points. So at that particular time, we've now finished. We definitely want to follow on our side, so let's go ahead and do that. So coming around to my turn here, we want to go ahead and we want to follow with a recruit action. So we'll go ahead and take a serf, put it in the recruit spot, and let's go ahead and do exactly that. Well, I want to recruit one of the individuals that I got a building for, which is my commander, which would give me 2 victory points in the game for having him in play. So that's going to be 3 food and 2 ore, and I'm more than happy to do that. So my food now goes all the way to 0. My ore goes down to 4, and I have just recruited the captain. This is the first time he's showing up on the board, so now he's a part of the action. This is the commander. I called him the captain. This is his card here. I'll give you guys a quick look. So let's go ahead and read him. It's, name is Lena, was not afforded her elite title. So this is actually a female, my mistake. That's what happens when they're in full armor. It's hard to tell. Lena was not afforded her elite title so easily. Noble elven women are expected to live a life of fluid grace and propriety. But she was not interested in limiting herself to these outmodeled expectations. Elven armies move in beautiful coordination under her leadership, and as a result, the forests surrounding the Hollow have never been more dangerous for outsiders. Here are all the abilities that this individual gets. She has a ton now because we've upgraded our capital city 1, 2, and 3. So now we're going to be gaining an extra victory point when the commander wins a battle. Huge. When the commander attacks, tactic cards cost 2 fewer resources. That's huge. And your armies in regions adjacent to the commander are +1. So that commander, if it's situated in a really strategic location like right here, could affect battles all around it. Very cool. Something we didn't talk about was the sorceress, because we went to the 3rd level. What does a sorceress get? It says when the sorceress attacks before tactic cards are revealed, you may also pay 5 mana to kill any 1 unit. So the sorceress basically has a massive power, allowing resources or mana to be spent to wipe out a character, or it really can be anything. So that's pretty cool. I don't think it's restricted to anything. Let's see here. Kill any 1 unit. Yeah, so it could even be a hero, because it's just unit. So that's pretty crazy. All right, so with that being said, of course, when you recruit from the command, or we recruit a hero, the hero ends up in the capital city. So I'm going to put him way up on top of the tower here. Technically, you could go in the courtyard, but does he look good or what? Standing on top of that fantastic tower that I've built. So with that being said, we've obviously gained some victory points for the end of game, which is great. Is there anything else I can do here? Did I pay? Yes, I paid. I'm down to 0 for food. So we're all set, squared away, and we're going to go into let me see here. Yes, this was a follow action. So we're going to go back over to the dwarven turn for the last turn of the round, where I still have 1 serf to hopefully follow. It all comes down to this as to whether or not my turn really was super strategic or not. Well, that works. We didn't research, so I'll do that. This one says the enemy pays mana, but the bad thing is these things are always nasty. So does it have the mana to pay this? Yes. The Marauder's doing it. It says, ooh, steal or 3 ore from opponent and gain 2 victory points. That's too bad. The other thing I want to make note of is the fact, oh, shoot, that's no good. Never mind. Yeah, it's just a straight 2 points for them. So let's go ahead and knock the mana down 3. So down to 7. We'll take 2 victory points and give that to the dwarves. So they're going to go up to 22 right underneath the orcs. With that being said, stealing 3 ore from an opponent. Right now there's 2 ore here from the orcs, and I currently have 4. So you just have to kind of play these ones out. Now you could play this randomly, you could flip a coin, but you could also, in my opinion, you'd only flip a coin to determine which one's which if it's a tie. Technically, if you were thinking as a human player, even though this is AI, the AI is obviously going to steal from what it can gain the most resources from. So it's going to definitely steal 3 from me because I have the ability to max out that 3. If I only stole 2 from here, it's not getting the full 3. So as a human player would do, it would take it from me. So I'd go down from 4 to 1. And of course, they would go up from 5 to 8. So that's kind of unfortunate because all the ore we gained, literally what they did was stole all the ore that I gained by moving into this area. So I guess it's not as bad, but it made my move that way a little bit pointless. So they went ahead and they did that successfully. I can follow this now, so let's move over to the elven side of things, see what we can do. What's really cool about this is the fact that I can go ahead now and use a serf to do the research action. This is the most I've ever followed, by the way. This is pretty cool. I can go ahead, it says you may draw spell cards and scribe when taking a research action, so I'm doing that. These other ones here don't really apply to me right now. The cool thing is we're up to level 3, so I could potentially scribe whatever I pick up, as long as it's a cast spell. I have 2 combats in here, so we'll see how it can go. But I also have the ability to hold up to 3 cards in my hand. So whatever one I choose from these 3 cards, I get to keep anyway. But if I'm really lucky, it's something that I can scribe. So let's see, we got 3 spells here. What do we get? So the first one here is cast. Ooh, perfect. Replace one of your warriors with a hero from your supply. Wow, that's really powerful. That's incredibly powerful. So that's really, really good. that's mind-boggling. Now, my understanding is still, I think you have to have the building. Yes, you still need the building, so that doesn't let you skirt the requirements of building a building in order to cast this, but that's still really cool. Maybe better if the game wasn't so close to being to the end. This one's called the Magic Arrow. It's a combat. It says before tactic cards are chosen, kill one warrior surf. Okay, I have the ability to do that with a few different things through my warriors, or through my heroes, so I may not need that one as much. Copy spell. Ooh, I've seen this one referenced a few. So interrupt, cannot be scribed. Copy a spell just played by an enemy. Pay the spell's mana and gain the victory points. Now this is where it's huge. What I could do is hold on to this one, because if we go through, which we will, one more round, I can scribe, or I can't scribe this one, but I can hold it in my hand, because I can have up to 3 cards in my hand. It's a one-time use, but the cool thing about it is I can spend mana to gain the same amount of victory points that the enemy may get if they get a really powerful spell on the board. And if I'm looking over at their spells, their highest one is 3, their lowest one is 1. So if they happen to pull a 3, and I copy it, what's really cool is I could go ahead and potentially not be left in the dust because they gain those victory points. It would help me keep up with whichever faction gets that. So that being said, this one seems like the best one. Magic Arrow and Courage don't seem like really useful ones right now for me because my heroes aren't dead. And yeah, so I'm going to take these 2 and throw them aside. And of course, it's an interrupt, so it cannot be scribed. So it's going to go into my hand. So now I've got these 3 in my hand. And that's really it. That's going to actually wrap it up. So at this point now, I have no actions to go. We've used 3 cards for both the factions. Now we go into collecting resources for end of round. So the orcs, what do these guys get right now? So the orcs here, we've got a surf, we've got a control of this location here, so that's going to be 2 mana. That's going to max them right out. Over here we got control, so that's going to be 1 ore. Here we have nothing in the capital city for them. Over here we have 2 serfs sitting on top of a forest with a berserker, so that would be a total of 3 mana, 1 for controlling, 2 for the serfs. But they're already maxed out on mana, so they're getting nothing there. So that's fantastic. It's really good, actually, because they're getting nothing, very little for ore. Not nothing, but very little. And that's fantastic. Plus, even food. So they're in a great spot to no longer be gaining a lot of resources, so that should hopefully slow them down quite a bit. Moving on to the dwarves. They, of course, are the dwarves, so they're going to get 1 just for being at the dwarves, to 9. Nothing else here gives them any more bonuses. Coming along here to where they're sitting, they have control of a forest area here, so they're going to go up 1 for that. Coming along here, they've got 1 individual who's in a desert, so nothing there for that hero. Over here, we've got a serf sitting inside of an ore area, so that's going to bump their ores through their map. They get 2, but they can only take 1. Over here, we got a warrior and a hero controlling a farm area, so that's going to be 1 food. Coming all the way to the back here, we've got a serf hiding back there, controlling and giving a +1, plus the tower and all that good stuff. So let me see again. I got to remember, what does the tower give me? 2. It gives 2 extra for its region. So they're going to gain 2 plus the serf plus the control. So that's 4. That's going to take their mana right through the roof. So their mana is going to go all the way to the top of the track. And just like that, we've got all the resources squared away. Okay, so I'm hoping that this ends up being really good for me. So first we'll reset everything. I've got 3 serfs in the courtyard, 2 actions in the middle. We're going to start from the top here. Now we got a lot of cards to reference here and I don't really want to miss anything. So the first thing is, I believe my sorceress has an ability or bonus. It says gain 1 when collecting resources. The sorceress is not in your courtyard. So I'll take that right now so I don't forget it. Do I have anything else across her card at all? Nope, that's for attacking and attacking, so nothing there. The commander also does nothing. It only gives me victory points and strengthens things, so that's not going to help. Coming over here, I've got a tower, so that's 2, plus I control this area, so that's 3. So I'm going to be going up 3 food, so whoop, there we go. This serf here sits and controls the forest, as well as it gives a +1 to the forest, so it's going to be 2 gained there. So we're going from 3 to 5. Good. Gives me some options with my scribe spells. We've got 1, 2 plus control for 3. We've got 1 plus another 1. So technically there's 3 here, 2 here. So 5 ore coming in. That's good, from 1 to 6. And then we've got a warrior controlling a farm. So it's going to be 1 resource from there. And we've got control of a forest here, so another mana. So that's not terrible. It wasn't a ton of resources, but a very even split. And I think that's pretty much it. My boat is still docked, so it doesn't give me any resources from the sea. And I think we're all squared away and ready to go. Now, technically, guys, just so you know, my warrior is here. So if I wanted to start doing movement, I could throw the warrior into the boat and send him off at some point during this. I haven't done that yet. Don't know how this is going to pan out or if I want to draw this out any further. I think this turn is the round that I'm going to probably try to end it. So I'm likely going to try to, well, I might end up trying to do a build action, maybe use one of my serfs, because I can also recruit and bring 2 more in, and then try to go ahead and recruit one of these guys. I can't recruit the assassin because he needs 5 food and I'm low on that, but I could go after something like the Phoenix, which would give me 2 victory points, and building a building, even if I don't get the guys, that would give me 1 each. So that's not a terrible idea. So with all that being said, let's move into, oh, actually, just one more thing. I get to pick a new, or I get to pull a new card. See what I get. I got Scry, so it's a cast. Oh, this is good. Select 4 face down exploration tokens anywhere on the board and view them. Keep this information secret. Okay, that's really cool if I was going after those heavily, but based on where my units are, not that useful. I don't really have any reason to check this area out, and if I needed to, I'll just march into it. So this would have been really cool at the beginning of the game to get an idea of the landscape of what was around me and to avoid pitfalls, which I definitely fell into a few. But for now, not exactly what I need. So that's going to do it. Let's start out the next round. So here we go. Starting off with the orcs. We got a recruit action. That's something we can follow. So first off, no air, no sea, no warriors, but a serf. So a serf costs 1, so we will pay that. It's going to land with the chieftain. So this serf is going to actually not be able to get on the actual craft. It will land right here in this area and cannot move with this particular craft, but it's going to start gaining them some forest resources down there. So that's good for them. I am definitely going to follow this. So let's move over to the elven board and find out what I can do. So a recruit action, hey, what do I want to do here? Now, I'm really tempted to go ahead. Now, first off, I can't put out the Phoenix or the Assassin because I don't have the buildings built. I need to build first, but I could recruit these 2 serfs up here. Serfs don't give me anything, but I needed to get them out anyway in order to get this endgame trigger to trigger. So I could do that, or I could pull the warrior out of my hat and recruit the warrior too. And I'm really tempted to do that because if I do that, I could potentially get the warrior into the boat with the hero, maybe do a march or something like that later on, which would be semi-useful to get him out in the area for resources. But being that this is likely the end of the game or the last round, I don't know if there's too much there that's really going to give me any major benefits. So in terms of recruiting, obviously having the warrior out's good because it's going to give me 1 extra point. So I probably should do that. So if I spend 2, now just look at this here. I got 4 food and I need 3 in order to get to 2 serfs, and I need, oh, I know, I'm going to end up using my conjure for the warrior. So I do not want to actually bring the warrior out right now. I'd rather bring out serfs. So I'm going to bring my food down to 1. And that's going to allow me to bring my 2 serfs into the courtyard. So now I have a ton of guys in my courtyard here. And more than ready to follow literally any action that comes at me. And that's pretty much going to be it, actually. So that's a pretty straightforward follow. Now, I went ahead and followed the recruit action, so I can't forget to actually take one of the serfs that were already here and cover that recruit action because I can't do it again. Now we're going to flip back over to the dwarves and continue with their turn. Okay, dwarves, let's see what you got. What are you going to do? Taxing. Okay, well, I can tax too. So taxing, so the enemy collects each type of resource equal to their current values in the tax chart. So we've got 4 ore, 3 food, 2 ore. These 2 are max, so no need to even talk about them. This one can go up 3, so go up to 8, and that's literally it. Now, on my side of things, I definitely want to follow this. So I definitely want to follow, so I'm going to go ahead and take a serf here. I'm going to do a tax action. Now, what do I want to follow with? Probably food, I would think, but at the same time, building could be really good, but I can only build once anyway. So I'll end up being able to build 1, but having food is handy because if I can get food, then I can potentially build and actually bring something out that could help me. Now, the one that's most likely to happen would be the Phoenix because I only need 2 food to get the Phoenix out for 2 victory points. I need 5 to get the Assassin, which is really high. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whatever the bread or food level's at and raise that up. So coming over here again to remind everyone we're at 3. So we'll be cycling that as well so I don't forget. But 1 up to 4. So there we go. I've covered up the tax action. And the last thing I need to do, which I forgot so much in the last video, is to just cycle all these around. So now the food is at the top, man is in the middle, and the ore is at the bottom. Just like that. And so I still can keep on following, but the great news is that we are going to run back over to, well, actually, I shouldn't even say that. We're not going to run back over at all. We're going to start going ahead right now with my turn because we've now done the first 2 turns on the opposite side. So let's go ahead and use one of our main actions right now. But just before I get ahead of myself, the enemy hero moves. I don't want to forget about that. So the tax action not only taxes, but also gets the enemy hero to move. Of course, I don't get that benefit, but the movement is going to be east, and it's going to be the cannoneer. Where is the cannoneer? Oh, yes, that's right. He's way up here. So he's moving east, and he's only moving 1. So where would he move? Well, he probably would be moving into this area here, which would likely put him into a boat. So essentially, he'll go oop into here, and then because the boat is wide open, he would drop his guys into here. So he's going to have his warrior in here as well as himself. And just like that, they are in the boat. Now I'm going to double check in the rules really quick to see if it's the serf that gets in with him or the warrior. But there is some ruling on which one he would choose to bring in with him because the serf technically is already in there. But for now, I'm putting the warrior in there, and I'll double check that. But that's kind of where they would land. There's no cost for moving heroes and their armies into and out of those particular land, or the boat, or the sea vessel, I guess it's called. So that's going to pretty much wrap up the dwarves' turn. After doing a quick check into the rules, it is indeed the warrior that will join the hero in the boat and not the serf, prioritizing the warriors always over serf. So I did that correctly. So we'll go back and start here with my turn with the elves. Okay, so one thing I've been thinking about in terms of my turn is maybe casting a spell. And the reason I want to do that is I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that dwarves are right on the shoreline and could potentially come over and take away victory points by defeating me here, as well as killing a whole bunch of warriors, as well as my hero, which would slow down my whole plan of basically being able to time when I bring this guy out and end the game. So I want to avoid that. And so in order to do so, I'm going to go ahead and do an earthquake, which is going to be a cast. So I'm going to be taking an action marker. It's a command action. And it says here, cast. Select a group of 3 adjacent land regions, which is basically kind of like forming a triangle. It has to be on land. And any enemy players with units in those regions must choose to lose 2 strength worth of serfs or warriors that are on land. And that's the big difference here. Coolest thing is I gain 2 victory points just for casting it. So I'm finally getting to put some damage on them. So I'm going to go ahead and make a hit that lands here, here, even where this air unit is, and here, because it just has to be a triangle of 3 different adjacent. It has to be adjacent continents, so it's kind of hitting an area. So a huge earthquake erupts here. I could have also done it here, here, and here, but regardless, because we're only talking about on land units, this is the only area that's going to get affected, and losing 2 strength means it's going to have to lose a warrior, which is perfect. So we've just killed off a dwarven warrior, so I'm going to chuck that aside. That'll lose them a victory point, as well as knock down how strong they are, so that if they do happen to they likely wouldn't have attacked me anyway, because when they moved to attack, they had to be stronger than my group. But now I'm really tempted on the next turn to do a march action into this area, killing them off, and also getting an extra victory point for not only initiating the battle, but controlling the forest too. That would be really wise on my part. But the really cool thing is I just gained 2 from doing the earthquake alone. So that's going to bump me from 6 to 8 on the track. And that's what I really need to do, is kind of generate some points that aren't going to be necessarily committed at the end of the game. So with that being said, I shot off that earthquake. It devastated them and killed off one of their warrior groups from their particular party there. And that's going to be it for my turn. So we're going to start off the second turn around in this round, starting off with the orcs. All right, orcs, let's see what you got here. So the orcs going to go ahead, flip the card. We got an attack. Okay, so it's going to be an attack. The shaman is doing this, and the enemy hero and its army move up to 2 to attack. Let's see here. When the shaman ends its movement, if it's next to a player unit, the player discards resources. Okay. Well, this guy's nowhere within 2 movement of getting to anybody, so that's just not going to happen. But what they will do is they're going to attack. They're going to move, and they're going to move south. So the shaman can move 1 speed of 1, so that's going to cap the warriors that can. Well, actually, the warriors can only move 1 too, so I guess it's just 1. So they're really just going to all kind of pile into this area, now making this guy join in the ranks of the shaman. So now the shaman has a real powerful army here of 4. Didn't really do too much, but they're just kind of all piling in that side of the board. I can't follow an attack action, so we can move swiftly over to the dwarves and pull a card, but I am at the end of the deck, so I'm going to have to shuffle these up, and we'll come right back and do the dwarven pull. All right, let's see what happens. A recruit. Okay, well, this is something we can follow. Oh, no, we can't. We've already done that before this round. So, but regardless, they're going to do a warrior because that's next in line. They already have their ship or their air vessel and sea vessel out. So a warrior is going to cost them 2 food. So they're going to drop from 8 to 6. They're going to grab one of their 3 warriors that they have up here. And this is going to show up on the priestess. Now, the priestess, I think, is in the air. So this guy will be showing up just underneath here in the desert area. That's pretty much it. So now that's happened, and we're going to move on. And I can't follow that recruit action, but now we come around to using one of my main actions for the elves. So you guys may have noticed that I went ahead and last turn here and did a cast, which basically stopped me from doing conjure. And conjure was the thing that was going to bring this warrior into play, finishing my expand objective, which would have triggered the end of the game. I didn't do it this round. Why? Because I want to drag this out one more round. I think I can make something work in order to get a couple extra victory points. We'll see if it works. I hope it doesn't backfire on me, but I don't even know necessarily how, whether I'm even in the lead at this point, because it's very tough to know that based on the fact that a lot of it gets added up from your player mats at the end of the game. We have some stuff that's known based on the track here. I'm not too far behind. Technically right now I'm about, let's see, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 away from the dwarves and 14 away from the orcs. So not terribly behind, but remember that a lot of their stuff is counted in right away with the exploration tokens, where a lot of mine is on the mat. So I think I make gains there quicker than they do, but we'll see. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make up my mind on what action to take next. That is the thing I wanted to come and just mention to you guys. If you're wondering why I'm not ending it this round, it's because I've had a little change of heart. Okay, so this is quite interesting how I'm going to pull this off. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a second action here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose to sail. Now, when the boat, which is currently in this location, is docked, players can move their units in and out of here freely. So I can move my hero into the boat, and then I can also take with it 1 serf, which I'm going to do because I have a ton in the courtyard. Remember, serfs in the courtyard are still in this area, so they're going into here. Now I start moving my ship around. Now, as we know, my ship now has an extra movement because the sea dock is at the capital level city of 3. So I'm going to get +1 on movement, and my boat can move up to 3 already. So now that's a total of 4. That is a ton of movement, but if I go into this center area, I'm stuck. So yeah, it'd be really easy to take my boat and sail all the way to a forest area and be fantastic to try to control it. But at the end of the day, if I come through here, I get stuck, and I have to deal with 2 tokens. These could be good. They could be terrible. I do not want to risk it because I could end up losing my hero. I could end up losing my warrior. The whole plan could go down the tubes. So I'm not going into that center region. My plan is to simply undock from this for 1. I'm going to sail over here for 2. And I'm going to dock again like this for 3. And then I'm going to undock my hero, and I'm going to undock my serf onto this location to start going after ore. And what my plan is my plan is to build a tower on the orcs' land. I think that's going to make them really happy. So I'm going to also be able to gain... it'll cost me ore equal to how many land regions away it is. So it'd be 1, 2, 3 when I get a build action later on, which I do have open to follow. But the crazy thing about that is it'll also give me 1, 2, 3 victory points, because however far away you build the tower, you're basically gaining those in victory points at the end. Now, the other thing too is technically there is a forest region right here, so I could gun to get this one for even more. But I did a sail action. Remember, as part of the sail action, I can dock and undock freely, but I cannot move my men as part of the sail action. So that's kind of the interesting thing. I am kind of stuck here. So yeah, in a future turn, if I had more time, might have tried to go here. It is fairly open. I might be able to swing it next round. We'll see if a build action comes up. I'm going to take advantage of it and build a tower as fast as I can. But at this point in the game anyway, I've used both my main actions. I have 2 more serfs to follow. So we're going to go all the way over here to the orcs and see what's coming next. Okay, I'm wondering what the orcs are going to do. Could they potentially find me? A build. Okay, well, there you go. This is what I was looking for. So tower or vessels. The enemy pays resources to build. Priority order is a tower. So do the orcs have any... They don't have a tower. Interesting. And this is for the berserkers. So actually, they will build one because there is a serf. So a tower will be built, which is the very first one they've ever done. Their tower is right here. It's going to cost them for every ore away. So let's see here. It'll be 1, 2, all the way through here, 3, 4, 5. It's going to cost them 5 ore. Do they have 5 ore? They do not. They can't build it. That's fantastic. That worked out so good. So they can't build a tower. They can't build an air vessel because it's already built. The sea vessel's already built. So this is going to consider a failed action for them, which is going to result in them moving. So they're going to move, and this whole army is going to move just one because that's as far as the Berserker can move. And it's going to move to the northwest direction, which you can kind of see is impossible. So the only other direction that they can potentially move, moving clockwise, would be up to this area up here. So now they're going to shuffle over here to this area and come back to where they really were a lot earlier in the game. So that really screwed them over because it's huge for me, because if that build had happened, their first tower would have come out in the game, giving them 5 victory points, which is crazy. That would have been 5 points at the end of the game they would have gotten. So that, I'm really happy that didn't happen. Very happy it did happen in terms of a build, because right now I'm going to follow it. So without further ado, let's get over to the elves and follow this action. So as I really wanted to happen, I'm going to take a surf, drop it in the build action, and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to spend the resources necessary to build a tower. This tower is going to be in cost 1 ore away, has to have a surf, is required to do it. So I do have a surf right here in order to do this. So and the surf has to just be in that particular area for that to be built. And essentially I have that surf sitting in the region, no problem. So it's going to be based on how many regions it's away. We know it's 1, 2, and then across to 3. So it's going to cost me 3 ore, so not too expensive. And bam, just like that, we've now got a tower sitting in the orcs area, which is just awesome. So there you go. I like this so much better. Okay, so that's fantastic. We've got another tower up, which is going to give us a bunch of victory points at the end of the game. That worked out perfectly. And now we have one more chance to follow again. We have to go back to the dwarves for the last move of the round. And if I get lucky, I'll be able to follow. Maybe it'll be a research action. We'll see very soon. Okay, let's find out what the dwarves have. And it's an attack. So I'm not going to be able to follow this one. It says the enemy hero and its army are going to move up to 2 to attack. And it's going to be the Marauder. Oh no, they're coming to me. They are on the way. So this is going to send them across and south straight for me. So it's going to move up to 2 to attack the nearest player army that is less than or equal to its natural strength. But it has to be less than or equal to a natural strength, and it's not, because my warriors and hero are way higher in value for natural strength than the Marauder, and it's 1 warrior. So that attack will not happen. Fantastic. So it says here, if the action fails, there are no player armies nearby, or the player armies nearby are too strong, then it's going to move. So it's going to move in a south direction. Now this is an interesting one, because if it moves in a south direction, technically it would come across. But it can't, because it cannot start or initiate a battle. So it's going to do the whole clockwise thing again. So in situations like that where it gets weird, it just goes clockwise, which means it'll send it up to here, which is awesome. Because guess what just opened up without any effort whatsoever is that forest region. So it's perfect for next round. This is flawless. This is working out exactly how I hoped it would. Going into the next round, I may be able to expand my kingdom all the way to here and trigger the end of the game if things continue this way. So that actually is going to wrap up the round. We're going to clean up and do our collection of resources starting right now. So beginning with the orcs, we're going to start with them. They've got massive control of this ore region right here. So just 1, as there's no surf. They have 2 surfs in here with this forest region, but they're maxed out on their mana, so that's as high as they'll get. Anything else for them? They're all up in the farm area. They also have serfs up there, and you can have a max of how many? 2. So they're going to gain 3 resources from this area. Oops, and I forgot, when this guy moved up here, he should have gained food too. So the orcs should have gained up to 6 from the last movement in the last round when we were talking about the Berserker running away. And then now they're going to gain 2 for the serfs and 1 for controlling it. So that's 3 more, so they're up to 9. In terms of these guys over here, guys, just so you know that I didn't forget, the hero moved into a swamp location. They don't get resources, so that I didn't miss that. Coming back around, that's it. That really is it for them. So we'll move on to the dwarves. The dwarves are already maxed for mana and for ore, so we can ignore all of that. Swamp gives nothing, or they have too much of. They're in a desert there. They have 1 individual in a forest region up here, and it's a tower, so 2 plus the surf, which is 1, and then for controlling it's 4. So that's going to max them out, but again, mana. So it's not going to help them out. Food is what they're lacking, but they're they're not going to gain anything that way. So without further ado, let's head over to the elves and see what wonderful stuff I gain. So we'll go ahead here and start by resetting everything. Of course, all my wonderful serfs are coming back in here. Actions are going back. To start off this particular round, I'm going to go ahead and give myself the 1 mana from my sorceress not being in the capital city. I don't want to forget that. We'll start off right here. Tower control, that's 3 food, so they're going to jump me from 4 to 7. We have an individual in the forest here gaining some mana plus control, so that's 2, so to 5. Here we have 2 serfs and control, so that's 3 ores, so we're going to go up to 6. Over here we have a serf controlling, so 2. That's going to be from 6 to 8. And then we're going to have 1 warrior controlling this food region, so it's going to have our food go up to 8. Then over here we have our hero with 3 warriors, so control in the forest for 1, so that's going to bring me to 6. And wonderfully, way over here, I now have a tower sitting on top of this area, so I'm controlling it for 1. Surf bonus of 1, tower gives me 2, that's 4 additional ore, jumping me to the top of the track. Now that is how you get things done. That's fantastic. We got lots of resources to play with going into this final round. This should be a lot of fun. So I'm going to be looking forward to this one. So without further ado, let's figure out what happens in the final round of the game. Well, and the reason it's final round is because I'm the one that's going to trigger it. Okay, so the orcs will start off here. We're flipping it over. It's attacks. Pretty straightforward. So we'll go ahead and do our attacks. So 4 food, so they're going to max out on food. They're going to have maxed out on mana already. Their ore is going to go up by 2, so we can do that easily. And of course, we're going to cycle this over, but first I'll follow it. We'll do our movement first for the enemy. So the chieftain's going to move to the east. So that's going to actually have this flying chieftain with its serf move to the east, and it moves in the dragon at a speed of 2. So that's going to have this guy go here, which will gain them a food, but they're maxed out. And then another one's going to have them go up to this swamp area right here. So they're not in my section yet, so there's no battle happening, but they're right on the edge, and I prefer that that doesn't happen. I really want to keep everything there points-wise. So that worked out pretty good. So without further ado, that is going to end that orc's turn, but I'm going to go ahead and follow this tax action. So with my track here all the way up 10, 8, and 6, I really want to bump the mana even further. So let's jump that mana even further by going ahead and getting 3. So I'm going to follow it with a surf here. We're going to jump from 6 to 9, so you can see that I got that from here. And now we're done. We can rotate all the resources around, so that worked out really well. Now I really have all the resources I need for this particular turn. And we're going to come around to the dwarven turn. So one thing I forgot to do at the end of the last round here was just grab myself a new spell card. I want to check it out because it could be something good. This one's Grow, so it's a cast. It's something I could scribe in the future. Select 1 region you control, immediately collect double the resources you would normally collect from it. Very cool, and very useful early in the game, but right now, not so much. I like the cards I have because they're more for defending, attacking, and copying spells. So I'm going to chuck this one. It would have been really useful earlier in the game as something I could have scribed and potentially gained a lot of. So we're going to skip past that. Time for our dwarves to get going. So we got ourselves a recruit action. So air vessel, sea vessel, warrior. Well, they do have warriors to recruit. The cannoneer will be doing that recruitment. So it's going to cost them, to get that warrior out, it's going to be 2 food. So they're up to 8. They do have 2 more warriors to go, so here's one of them. This warrior can't go in the boat because the cannoneer's already got a warrior in the boat, so it'll go against the land here. Because again, you can. This is docked right now, and essentially you can move units in and out all the time. Doesn't cost them anything to undock either. So the unit goes right in this area here. Moving along, there is going to be a possibility for me to follow, which I'm definitely going to do. So let's go over to the elves and talk about that. So at this point, if I wanted to follow, I could follow and recruit. I could recruit the warrior and technically end the game right now. But the thing is, I don't want to. I still have a couple things I'd like to do, like getting this army over into this forest region and controlling it before I trigger the end of game. So I don't actually want to do a recruitment action as of right now because I do not want to trigger the end of the game. Well, that's going to bring it all the way around to my turn where I have 2 actions, and now I have to decide what I want to do for my actual turn's action here using these tokens, or one of these tokens. So the first thing I'm thinking of doing is, again, marching. I'd really like to get my guys up into this area here. So that's kind of the biggest thing right away, is to move up here and then try to build a tower more likely than anything else. So I'm going to go ahead now and move. I need to think about how I want to, or whether I need to leave someone back here to control this area. So this is quite risky, but if it gets sketchy based on who's technically right now we still have the priestess and we still have the marauder to go for the dwarves. So they could trigger and it could result in a battle, which is a little scary. But it is what it is, and there's not much I can do. The only thing I could do is, if I wanted to delay that, is potentially drop some type of nasty... Oh, there's a serf in here, so that's not as bad. But this griffin gives them a power of 2 extra, so that's not good. Oh, plus there's a warrior down here, but that warrior won't come along. Oh, this is tough. This is tough. What can I do? What can I do? Let's do... Well, I do have the shield that I could use if I really need to shield during an attack, so that's nice. Let's go ahead and have them march. Let's do that. So let's march them in so that I'm in there. So I'm going to have all 3 of these units move into here. So we just marched across. The sorceress is in here as well as the 2 heroes. So now we're going to be able to get a victory point in the game. What I'm just realizing now, though, is I don't have a serf there. So that's kind of a problem. I need a serf to be there in order to build a tower, which makes moving there kind of pointless. I get a victory point, but it may not be the best thing to do. What might make more sense, actually, is to maybe, instead of doing a march, do a sail. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my serf from this location, put him in the boat for free. I'm going to maybe sail over there, which is possible. If I move to here, I can go into this location, and then I could potentially try to dock right here. The risk is I don't know what these are, and it could kill my boat, it could kill my serf. So there's that. I can't move through this. I can't ignore these tokens, so I don't know exactly how that's going to pan out. Could be nasty. May not result in the best thing, but it could result in finding a treasure or something. So man, is this ever tough. But I do have to make kind of a move here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to... Oh, this is risky, because this is worth 2 points in the game, and if I happen to lose it by doing something risky, I don't know if it's worth it. So I know I'm kind of humming and hawing with you guys on screen here as I determine what I should do, but I wanted to kind of go through my train of thought with this. Flying isn't really an option because I don't have the Phoenix out yet, which is my flying chariot thing. I can sail, I can march, all that good stuff. So I could potentially march a serf. Serf moves 2. Could I get a serf to the right spot? Oh. I could send the serf back along the ferry route and into this area. That could work. So I could go like this. Perfect. So let's do that. We're going to do a march action. I move my serf all the way over to here, and now we're ready to go. That's fantastic. So that's perfect, and now we're going to head over to the orcs. Okay, orcs, what kind of... Oh, we're down to the last card, so we're going to have to go ahead and reshuffle. We'll come right back. All right, shuffling is complete. Let's go ahead. Build action. Okay, that's not good. Oh, no, it's the capital city, so that's not good. It's going to be a payment of... ore, which they do have, sadly. They have 6, and what do they need? Oh, they needed 6. That's the worst. They're going to jump from 13 victory points to 18. That's terrible. So they've now actually made it up. So that kind of hurts a little bit. That's exactly everything they needed to do that. So they are jumping up, which means we're going to give them the 3rd tier to their city. So now they're all the way to the top. Rats. But that's going to complete that action. I can go ahead now and follow, which is a plus. So let's go ahead and talk about what I could potentially build. Okay, so here's where I've landed on following the build action. I don't want to do it. The reason is my main objective right now is trying to get this army into the dwarven area and try to get a tower down in here. If I do a build right now, I can't do a tower because first off, I now have a serf in this area, but I can't build on this continent because I already have a tower here. I need to be in that in order to do it. The only other build I could do is a really small minor build of just getting 1 victory point for one of these guys. I don't want to waste it on that. I want to get a big time victory bonus by getting a tower over here, which gives me 1, 2, 3, 4 victory points at the end of the game. That's huge. So I'm going to hold off on following that build action. We're going to move right back to the dwarves for their 2nd turn. Okay, so for the dwarves here, we'll flip their card over. They've got a research action. This is good for me, but it's also bad because they're probably going to be doing something nasty. So what are they doing? The priestess is doing a stone growth. Build a tower in this hero's region for free. No serf required if copied. May be built in any hero's region. Whoa, that's huge for me. So that's incredible. So they're going to pay their 4. So down to 6. It says build a tower in this hero's region for free. So that's pretty straightforward. So a tower is going to be dropped in this region here. This region is a desert. So that tower is going to be dropped right there. And we're going to come around and I'll be doing the same thing. So the nasty thing with this is that I cannot follow this because, first off, it says right here that no source required if copied, but may be built in any hero's region. So the downside of that is my hero's regions are currently here. I can't build it there because I have a tower here, and my other one's already on a tower. So I don't have an available area to copy this. It would have been fantastic to use my copy spell to do this. It didn't work out. I still need to move into this area in order to build the third tower. It cannot be in the same continent I already have one at. So I'm going to have to sadly pass up on that opportunity, and we'll be moving along or back to my turn for my main action. So that was a bit surprising. I didn't see the dwarves actually getting another tower on the board, but I can tell you right now, if you take a look at what's going on, this board has gotten really exciting really quick. Things are building up fast. So what I'm going to end up doing here for my last action is I'm going to have to push the trigger on... Ooh, this is where it gets tough now, because again, if I draw this out any further, the downside is they could continue boosting up their towers like they're doing. Now, in order to make this work for me, I need to get a build action on their end. So far, they have one build card out, and I haven't seen the second build card yet. But they also have... Oh, sorry, I shouldn't do that. There's 4 build cards in there. So there's a really high chance, only one of them's been revealed, that I'll probably see one next round, but it's their final round. It could happen. The downside is if I don't recruit this warrior, though, I don't trigger the end of the game, which means this continues on. So I don't know. My plan seems to keep changing a little bit. I would like to at least get my guys into that area, though, for 1 victory point. But I only have 1 action left to go. So the question is, do I draw this out for 1 more round after this? Or do I just call it quits? Because we're on the brink of mass war, which is probably what the other guys want, because they'll destroy majority of the things that I've created. Oh, this is so tough. Let me think about this. If I go ahead and I do a march, I could end up getting here. I then could go ahead and... I guess I could end it at the very beginning of next round, which wouldn't be all that bad. Let's do it. Let's go for what our original plan was. We might have to go a little bit into the next round, but I'll stop it very quick. That's going to be my plan. So let's go ahead with a march. We're going to use this last one here to march. We're going to take all these guys out of here. Of course, we're going to leave 1 behind in order to guard the fort. So all these are going over here. The serf's coming with me. This is going to be quite interesting. So we got all these guys over here now. I'm really getting close. And that's really going to be it. Now we're just waiting for a build action. It's really what we're waiting for. We have the resources we need to build a tower. We're just hoping that we see that card. So let's go over to the orcs' final turn of the round. Well, this is going to be for the berserker, who's way off in the middle of nowhere up here, so shouldn't do too much to us. It's going to be a recruitment. Now, this is the thing. This guy cannot recruit anymore. He has 5 units in his army, can't do it. So this is going to end up being a failed action, which means they're going to move 1 spot to the southeast. Southeast would have them either hitting the desert or hitting the spot they just came from, actually. So the question is, which of the 2 is it? These are literally exactly the same. They're both kind of southeast, depending on which one you're talking about. In terms of the AI going for the best thing possible, it would move here, in my opinion, trying to go for tokens. I believe this is actually supposed to be in the desert. So yeah, it would definitely go here. So they're going to kind of hoard into the desert area, picking up this token, and try to fit all of them in there. They gain 1 point. So they're just taking the best thing that they possibly can, bringing them to 24. That's going to pretty much end their turn. Now, I can follow a recruitment action, and that's something that... oh my goodness. I could... Oh, no, it worked out bad. If I'd have got really lucky and got a build here, and then a recruit, I could have ended the game. But it didn't work like that. I could end the game this round. Shoot, but I could still... Actually, I can't recruit right now. There's nothing I can recruit except for... And that would just trigger the end of the game. So I'm actually not going to follow this. We'll just continue on with the dwarven turn. So here we go. There it is. There's a build. That's what we wanted to see. So it's, what is this? A tower or vessel. So tower, air vessel, sea vessel. So where are the dwarves? They're all landlocked up here. No towers can be built because... Oh, I just remembered. They can't even build a tower that they got in the first place anyway because it's not even legal. What am I doing? So guys, I'm sorry about that. You probably noticed that. This tower can happen, but don't worry, it was for free anyway. I still played it right in terms of them getting the victory points for it and paying the resources, but the tower doesn't go on the board because of course they can't have 2 towers in the same continent. My apologies. Caught that. Okay, moving on. That was embarrassing. But at this point, they got another build. They can't build anything in here as we just talked about, so it's a failed action. This is in regards to the Marauder. It's going to actually send him northwest, so that's going to be further away from us, which is perfect. It's going to actually send him up here, where he's going to basically join forces with this other guy in the surf. So that's awesome. So now he's out of our hair. And that worked out perfectly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come over to our side, follow that build action to build a tower. So as planned, we're going to build our tower. We'll take a surf, we're going to go build, and we're going to build that tower. That tower is going to cost us 1 ore for every space that's away. As we know, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. I guess technically this is 1 here. So maybe it's... That's weird. I guess technically this is 1, 2, 3 away, not 1, 2, 3, 4, because this is a shorter route, I guess. I don't know. So I'm assuming that you count it through the shortest possible routes. Maybe it wasn't worth 4 points, maybe it was just worth 3, but still, I'll take it. So 3 ore, so we're going to drop this from 10 to 7. I do have a surf there, so that's legal. And now I'm going to rearrange this so you guys can see. So I'll put my tower right here. I'll put my surf on the circle spot. My hero can be here clumped up. Maybe let's go on top of the tower. Got my warriors down here. So there we go. We got a tower. We got some serious defense there. Look at that. That's how you control the angles from your continent. That's pretty awesome. I got everything set up there. And that's going to pretty much do it, I think. That's actually it. That's it for the round. So we're going to go ahead and collect our resources, finish it off, and then move into what will definitely be the final round, and it will be probably a short one. Okay, orcs, you're maxed out for all those resources, so what do you get for your ore is really what matters. So 1 here, coming up over here, nothing here, and nothing up there, so it's going to be a total of 1. Pretty easy. For the dwarves, they're going to go up to, well, they're maxed for 10, so nothing for ore. It's really about food and mana. Do they gain any food? No. Based on their current setup on the board, they gain no food. Mana-wise, though, they have a ton up there in the top, so they're going to gain 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to put them to the max for mana. And that's about it for them. So let's go over to the elves and find out exactly what I get. Again, my sorceress is not in my courtyard, so I always gain a mana for that, but I'm maxed, so I don't get anything else. I've got 2 for the tower, 1 for control, so that's going to max out my food. Ore-wise, do I max out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, easy. I'm maxed out on every resource now. So going into this turn, I have all the resources I need. Let's take a spell card for the round, and I'm going to probably be ending this real quick. Summon, take 1 surf from your supply and place in a region. Do not need that right now, this in the game. So with that being said, we're going to reset all my guys, and we are going to come into what is likely to be the last turn of this round in the entire game. Okay, Chieftain, what do you plan to do in the last turn here? Recruit. Okay, so can you recruit an air vessel? No. Sea vessel? No. Warrior? No. Surf? Yes. So a surf will be on the board. 1 food. A surf lands right underneath you in a wasted region here in the swamps. So no good there for them. Do I want to recruit and follow? I could do this actually right now and end the game. It would be silly not to do this. I might as well end it right now, because anymore it just gives them a chance to continue doing something positive. So I'm going to follow this right now, and that's going to allow me to recruit, and I want to follow using my warrior here. So the follow would be 2 food, so it'll drop me down to 8. I put a surf in the recruitment, recruit my warrior, and just like that, I have now ended the game. I have expanded all of my guys into, all my serfs and all my warriors are out on the board. That is it. Now comes the fun part. We have to total up the points. So what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to total up all the points. I'm going to go through it, and we're going to go through a little bit of chart, and I'll show you how I squared up against these guys. I have no idea whether I'm close. I beat them. I'm totally destroyed, and they just absolutely destroyed me. You can see in this game, you don't have to always go to war in order to have quite a bit of fun. I could have gone into a mentality of just trying to destroy everything all the time, but I wanted to try the expanding option of just trying to get myself as many different places and really expand my towers to other continents and put them kind of in danger's reach, but they managed to survive. So without further ado, let's get into the scoring and see what happened with Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. Alright guys, the time has finally come to total up the values and find out what the final scoring is for the orcs, the dwarves, and the elves. Who is going to win this playthrough? That's what I'm really interested in. So what I'm going to do is I've got things already tallied out here, and we're going to go through these one by one. I'm not going to do all of the addition here in front of you because If you have the game yourself, or when you decide to pick up the game, if you do, then you'll be able to see how all this, the totaling of scoring works. I'll just generally talk about it and give you the total for each of the categories as we go to kind of hype up a little bit about what the grand totals will be. I'm sure you guys will be adding things up in your head as we go anyway, so you'll probably get to the totals faster than I will, but still, let's just go through this one by one. Now, first off, I've got Dr. Scratch everywhere here, so this wasn't typed up nicely. It's very, very much just handwritten. So at the very top here, we have the elves, we have the orcs, and the dwarves. The reason for this section right here, which is all bulked off, is because in this section lies all the spell, battle, and experience, or I should say exploration tokens, not experience, that we gained from points before we start totaling up anything else. And really where we go for those three things is the track. So it's basically your starting points that you gained from either casting spells, doing battles, which give you some experience points, or victory points, I should say. I keep calling them experience points, but they're victory points. And then exploration tokens, of course, that's where the AI got the majority of their points. So for me, I'm at 8. So the elves are going to be a big 8. The orcs are way up the track here at 24, and the dwarves at 25. So let's go ahead and put those values in. So you can see they have a nice jump on me right at the start. Next up is the units. Now, I'm not going to go through here and count them all up, but basically with the unit, how it works is you're going to get a victory point for each recruited unit and vessel in the game, as listed on the capital city board. So again, all these things, their point values are right here. So I've already done all the adding for not only the AI, but myself. Unit total for me comes to 10. Unit total for the orcs comes to 9, and unit total for the dwarves is an 8. Next up is the buildings. So for every completed building, well, this doesn't occur for the AI because they don't build buildings. They're building their capital city, which we'll talk about later, but they don't build buildings. I do, however, and as you can see quickly from my mat here, I've got 3 of them completed, so that's going to give me a leg up of 3 points, whereas the AI does not even get to have the chance to get those points. This is where things, balancing-wise, kind of come into play as we go through, because they get those exploration token points. So moving along here, we got the towers. The towers are next up, and of course, I have a ton of towers. I've got 3. I managed to get 3 of them out. The dwarves got 1, and the orcs got 0. So we're going to start here with the elves. For me, I'm going to be getting an 8 for the tower. You might be wondering how that's totaled. So essentially with it, it's going to be victory points for each built tower, and it's based on you're getting victory points for every land region away from your capital city. So just so you guys can see an example of this, here's my capital city. Here is a tower. This tower is worth 2 points because it's 2 land spaces away. This one over here is worth 1, 2, 3 spaces away. Now this one is a little bit more tricky because I could be greasy and go from here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, but you usually take the shortest route if I'm not mistaken. So 1, 2, 3. So it's worth 3 points to get from the capital city to that particular region. So in total, that's going to land me an 8. And of course, as I already mentioned, the orcs didn't get any towers up, but the dwarves did get 1. And the hilarious thing with the dwarves is their tower is right next to their capital city, so they'll only get a single point. Next up is the capital city itself. So you get actual total victory points for your capital city. They're denoted right here on the AI card based on where the token is. So 18 for the orcs, and then way up here we got 13 for the dwarves. So we'll go ahead and put those in, 18 and 13. Now for me as a capital city, I get 10. So I cannot get very much out of my capital city, whereas these guys can get some outrageous totals. But I luckily was able to keep them, well, keep the dwarves from getting up to 18, but the orcs got away with that last tier at the end of the game. I think that might hurt me. We'll see. Spells, for this one, what actually is happening here is it's all scribe spells. So scribe spells only work for me because I'm the human player. You don't scribe spells as an AI character, so they don't get any of this. So the cool thing is this is another category where I, as a human player, can get some extra points. I have, as you can see way down there, 2 scribe spells way up here. So I'll be getting 2 points. So dropping those in like that. Next up, and actually let me just double check that. Yes, it's 1 for each scribe spell. No matter how much is on the actual spell card itself for victory points, when you use a spell, you only get 1 victory point per spell. I should have gotten another one out there, but I got 3 there. I had the ability to because I had the 3-tier capital tower. Regions is the next one. This is simply how many regions do you control. I easily control the most regions. I've already totaled this number up. I control a total of 8 regions. The next up is 4 for the orcs, and it's really kind of funny, the dwarves only have 3. The crazy thing about this is that they managed to clump themselves up, so you can see the orcs only have here, here, and there. And there. So they have 4 different regions they're controlling because that's docked and counts as an actual unit controlling an area, whereas over here the dwarves only have 3 areas and they're all clumped up together. I have 8 because I definitely spread myself out over the continents and even jumped into other continents in order to gain some points. Next up is the build bonus. So these are going to, what this means essentially is bonus victory points from buildings, abilities as listed on the character board. So a bonus ability on the character board, a perfect example would be the Mana Tower. We talked about this before, so you can see right there, it says you get an additional victory point at the end of the game for every forest region you control. And I control 1, 2, and 3. So that's going to give me 3 additional points. And again, this is something that the AI can't get, so it's a nice 3 extra points for me. Then we come to the exploration token bonus. This is something where we could have flipped potentially tokens in a game that would have had an effect at the end of the game if we held them. None of that applies because we didn't find anything that would have given us victory points at the end of the game for holding it. I'm sure they're out there. We didn't explore every token. And of course, you can see there's a large pile of tokens way up here that never even entered the game. So we used a bunch right there, and those ones were never even put in. So that's where the replayability is going to come in, because you're going to see things next time you play you'll never see again. But for this one, it's just flat zeros across the board. Now, I've already totaled these numbers up. You may have totaled them up yourself or could do the math really quick in your head. So here we go. Without further ado, I got... Actually, no, let's go the other way around. Let's start with the dwarves. The dwarves got a 50. All right. So a 50 for the dwarves. Next up is the orcs. The orcs got a 55. So they take the lead so far. And myself, the elves, we got 50. Did we win? Nope. We came dead in the center. So we beat the dwarves, but we did not beat the orcs. And it sucks so much because I know where I went wrong in the playthrough. I allowed the orcs to get that extra tier. That hurt me. For myself anyway, there's a couple things I could have done to kind of hurt the orcs early on. I could have attacked them here, destroyed maybe some of their units and control some land. I went for a tower instead, which actually ended up giving me I think it was a better bang for buck anyway. So I don't think there was too much I could have changed about what I did, but man, was this ever a close game. So I can tell you right now, and this is how my off-camera plays of the game resulted as well. When I played this before doing this live playthrough, or not live playthrough, but this playthrough kind of on camera, the crazy thing about this is that these games are close. And it's really exciting to see that even though as a human player, these AI characters are able to just stay with you. And what I really want to try at some point is I really want to try adding even more factions in. I jokingly was thinking about doing an off-camera one where I add in every faction in the game, including expansions, which I think would be like seven different factions going at the same time, which I think would be just mass chaos in my brain. This was a nice number. The reason why I liked it was because you have 3 continents that had different factions starting it, and you always have that extra one. So it filled the full normal base game board, which is fantastic, so that you kind of got action going on across the whole land. If you only do yourself versus one other AI opponent, you're only using 2 continents to start, and one other of your choosing to fill with tokens. The other one's kind of dead territory. To me, it kind of hurts it when you don't have the whole area to explore. I like being able to go everywhere. So I would recommend, if you're going to play solo with Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea, that you at least play with 2 other AI-controlled players in a board setup like this for the base game, because you get the best feeling for the game, as you have to kind of deal with 2 different factions coming at you once. I don't think one is enough. One would be too easily. I think it would be much easier to keep track of what that single faction is doing. With 2, you really are, like you saw there earlier in my playthrough, I had to sit on the edge here wondering, are the dwarves going to come across? Are the orcs going to make an attack? And my fronts were kind of being, basically, they didn't, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Berserker did actually make it into that area. But where I was going with that essentially is that I always was a little bit paranoid that something bad could happen. And I think if I only had to focus on the orcs, I could have just kind of built a wall and just waited for them to come. So I think what would be really cool is adding in another faction even on top of this and doing like a solo versus 3 would be crazy too. But anyway, that's going to do it, guys. So I really hope this helped you. Look, compared to my Scythe playthrough where I came in last, at least this one, I came in second. So I'm kind of scaling up with these kind of games, these area control games. So, and I'm enjoying them a lot. It's a nice change on the channel to try a couple of these out, give an idea of some that are good options for solo players out there. I do believe this one actually is in the pledge manager state right now. So I think those of you that were part of the Kickstarter can get in with your pledges and pledge. So make sure you do that, of course. The other cool thing too is I don't know if they're doing late pledges, but if they are, you should look into it. I haven't checked myself. I'm not 100% sure if that's a possibility or not, but I would check their Kickstarter page if you're interested and you like what you saw through the playthrough here. I really do enjoy this game, and it will be staying in my collection for sure. So thank you guys so much for your feedback along the way. All the amazing comments really helped. I was able to pin a lot of those things as we went. Thank you for your support, and as always, keep on rolling solo.